From the Northwest studio to the Southwest studio, this is Walk Like a Mailman. We're
Walk
your
like a
hosts.
mailman.
Yeah, we don't need that. We're your hosts, Griffin. Say, I love doing this show, Griffin.
I love doing the show, Griffin.
Yeah, okay. That's better than last week. I am Jeffro. With our powers combined, we are a duo of douchebags. Um,
Hey,
hey, so yeah, this is Walk Like a Mailman, third episode.
three's a
We are,
party. Company.
yeah, third time's a charm, as I've been told by the court system. Anyway, let's do housekeeping right off the bat. If you could, listening to this, if you've made it this far,
Like, rate, and subscribe. All that jazz.
yeah, anything that's available, like subscribe, follow. Uh, like I said, if anything, it helps stay alive as far as this show goes.
Tell your
But
family
more,
and friends. Tell them
yes,
good things.
we will give you homework every day. Just tell one other person about this show by this time next week, and hopefully we will be able to just help others find the show and continue to grow and continue to do things that we like to do, like this show. So, but as far as other housekeeping, I just wanted to kind of clean up some things. Things have been brought to my attention, and not in like a negative way, but other as far as like in reference to like previous episodes, other post offices or stations, they may use like a different terminology from like station to station or region to region. Feel free to like reach out to us, walklikeamailman@gmail.com. If there is something that I'm like, continuing to, use as far as vocabulary that you use a different term for it, and I'll talk about it on the show. I'll bring it to the show and say, oh yeah, well, I constantly call something a tub, and others call it an ice chest. That is a specific reference. But um, yeah, just as like I said, a side note. There are constant different terms from like station to station. Like I said, I'm in like certain message boards, and they'll be like we'll all be talking about the same thing, and it's all kind of like context clues. We all kind of like know what we're all talking about, but the vocabulary ranges from like place to place. It's like going to like one part of the country and asking for a pop, and then going to the other part of the country and asking for a Coke, and then coming to the West Coast and asking for a soda. So that's kind of like the type of mentality I want people to have listening, is that just because I'm using a different term doesn't mean that I think that my term is correct. Just recognize that um, you know the same thing can have different names.
You know.
So how
What's
have
on
you
the
been?
agenda for today?
Yes, how have you been? That's on the agenda, is me always making sure that my best friend in the whole wide little blue world uh is doing peachy. Are you peachy?
Semi peachy.
Semi.
I've been having fun duking it out with my garage door opener that I had replaced barely 6 weeks ago. It just did not want to work one day, and it would just go all the way down and then go all the way up, and it did this over and over again. And then like every attempt that I made to fix it just somehow made it like inoperable.
Okay.
So
uh
I had a guy come out yesterday, and he basically said that like the logic board is cooked on this thing, and it's like 6 weeks old.
the
So
logic board.
Yeah, logic board is what he said. So like I had to go talk to the customer service people at like Chamberlain yesterday, which is like the manufacturer of the garage door opener, and they're sending one out. So 5 to 10 business days, I get my thing, and then I gotta wait and see for the people to come back out and fix it.
By chance, when you were messing around with your garage opener,
Yes.
did you like look on the top and look for like a plate for like a brand name, and did it say in fact Skynet?
No, it did
uh,
not say
oh,
Skynet. I got lucky
it's
there.
well, that is a mark
Well,
for things to come.
technically the company was Cyberdyne though. That was the company that like manufactured and made the stuff originally.
Yes, and I'm just saying
Skynet was
it's
like the
technology
program.
is revolting, and it's
Oh, I
starting
know. Oh,
with your
I
garage door and drones. I
I
heard that
have I
like
have
a
refused to connect to the Wi-Fi app thingy for my garage door. Like, I don't need a freaking app on my phone. I just need the little clicker button on my car, you know, remote thing to work when I push it, and then for it to close. I don't need it to be able to cook dinner for me. I just want my garage door to open and close. Like, we don't need technology to be so gosh diddly darn smart.
yes. It reminds me of when I would play that game. Have you ever played that game where you like push the button and then you like try to race out of the garage before it closes?
I've done that before, but usually you just have to hop over the sensor line.
Yeah, back in the day they didn't have those. Back in my day, yeah, they didn't have like the little sensor bars on the bottom. So that like
No,
put like that put like a lie in the rub is that you gotta like not
no,
only
I mean, I
run,
didn't have a garage when I was growing up for the most part.
yeah,
We just had a like driveway.
yeah, no, that was the thing is like back in the day you'd push the button and then you'd run out of the garage, you know, and then
Yeah.
now they have like the sensor on the bottom, so you gotta like run, jump, and duck at the same time. And I would love to say that my efficiency rate, my passer rating for that was 100%, but it wasn't, and I have definitely gone into concussion protocol multiple
It literally
times.
sounds like the scene from Indiana Jones where
I
he's
was
having to dive under the closing door, and then
I
get his
was gonna
hat
say
afterwards.
this is why we're like such good friends, because like we like finish each other's
Sandwiches.
sandwiches. Yeah. No, but I think that's what everyone thinks of when they're like running to go like underneath, and they have a hat on and their hat falls off and they got to reach back and grab the hat right before it closes.
For dramatic
um
effect.
yes, that was a rabbit hole of some sort. Speaking of rabbit holes, uh so my algorithm on things is like sometimes pretty funny, and I'm like been trying to piece it together. I think it's because an article that's been like kind of common is like Japan, I guess, landed a module on the moon, right? And I think I clicked on that, and I was just like, oh yeah, like I would like to see, who doesn't want to see pictures of the moon, right?
Yeah,
Uh,
I mean, it's
they,
romantic. There was a alleged space landing 50 years ago.
yes, yes. Well, apparently, the Japan is, I think, on the article it said that Japan was the fifth country to have like landed either like equipment or people or modules on the moon. But then my algorithm just decided that like I have gained a complete fetish for the moon of some sort.
It
Uh,
usually happens that way. It's a gateway.
yeah. First, I look at moon landing pictures, and then the next thing you know, it's literally just nothing but like recommendations of like moon stories. And Griffin, did you know that we had a full moon this week? Speaking of,
Yes, I did. I've seen it when I've been out driving.
yes, So we had a full moon this week, and my phone kept on like trying to like clickbait me into these articles of the 12 different names of the 12 full moons in the year. Did you know that there are 12 full moons in the year? I like didn't even like for whatever reason, I guess I just didn't pay attention in like some high school science class where I believe that this was common knowledge. And then on top of it, I guess it's like kind of like duh, there's 12 months. Maybe the 12 months were like based around moon cycles. And so, but there's 12 full months in a year. So did you know
I
that?
mean, I kind of knew that there was like a full moon about once a month. I didn't know that there was a different name for every single one of these moons. But I did kind of
Yes,
think there was a full moon once a month because, like werewolves and stuff come out like every time of
werewolves.
the full moon, and there has to be like a cycle to that. Otherwise, werewolves would never show up.
Yeah. Well, I mean, they would only show up. I thought it was like less frequent than once a month, I guess. I don't know
It was
what
like
I
every four
assumed.
weeks or something like that.
Yeah, which
Close enough to
for
once a
most
month.
people is a month. Yeah.
Close enough.
Anyway, so there's 12 names, and they're like little cheesy nicknames. I don't want to say cheesy because when
Is
you
that one of
research,
the names, the cheesy moon?
yes, that's why.
I mean, people say the moon's like made out of cheese. So that's
Yeah. Um, but like I guess Native Americans, as I guess like the root of it is that they made 12 names, and then as I was looking at these articles, because I fell for it because there's only so many of these that can like come across your timeline before it's like, okay, you got me, like what are the 12 different names of the different full moons, right? So in doing so, I was like, hey, like why not bring it across this podcast? And I spent more time on this than I thought I was going to, but I rated by name, just by name, the 12 different names of the full moons.
okay. This sounds interesting. I want to hear about this.
Yeah, so you don't know the 12 names. That's what I
No,
was.
no, no, no.
Yeah.
I
Okay.
didn't do any research on this ahead of time or right now. I want to find out.
I'm
Like
glad you're
the
playing
audience wants to
along.
find
Oh,
out.
this sounds interesting.
No,
Please tell me
seriously, I
more.
didn't look this stuff
How many
up.
minutes do we have to fill today? Anyway, no. Okay, so 12, right?
Yeah.
12 is the snow moon. That's a
No.
pretty generic one. That's why it's 12.
Okay.
So I wrote down also like a little like caption of what I think of when I think of. So it's the full snow moon, right?
Yeah.
And when I hear or see
I'm
the
guessing
word
the snow moon
snow,
doesn't come out in August.
no, it's February if I'm not mistaken. I don't know the exact months of all these. I didn't like want to go that far into it. I just thought this was
Probably
interesting.
a good
I just
idea.
was like, this was like the one like rabbit hole that I got into, that I fell into. So when I hear snow, the first thing I go to mentally, my like word association is Eric Snow. Do you know who Eric Snow is?
I feel like I've heard that name somewhere. Wasn't he like an NBA player somewhere?
Ding ding ding. Yep, that's exactly who it is. Once again, not
I
everything
thought he
is
played for like
sports
the
in my
Philadelphia
life.
76ers, if I remember right. But
Exactly. Wow. See, that's like I said. I not everything in my life is sports, but that's
everything in your life is sports. It's okay.
yeah, yeah. I guess I'm coming to realization of it when I like look at moon names. So yeah, he was on the 76er team, and I think the bigger reason why I kind of like it stuck to me is because he was on the Allen Iverson team, I believe, the Philadelphia
Yeah, that's
76er.
probably why. Only reason I know that because I think he
Yeah,
was on those
but
teams as
they
well.
played the Lakers in the finals one year, so I have distinct memories of like seeing him and all that. But I guess he's like an assistant coach now in the G League.
Oh, good for
Uh,
him.
yes, so that's what I think of when I see the snow full moon or full snow moon. So number 11 is the full sturgeon moon. Do
Sturgeon.
you know what a sturgeon is by
I do
chance?
not know what a sturgeon is. It sounds like the word surgeon, but it's probably has a completely different meaning.
It's spelled like surgeon, to be honest, but there's a T in there. It's a fish, actually. It's a very predominant fish in North America, like in America and
It's not even
Canada.
that predominant. I've never heard.
Yeah, I don't think we're eating sturgeon every night. But it's I don't know what month it is, but I guess it's a month where they like kind of like populate the streams throughout the country. And like I said, Native American roots, they I guess used like and ate sturgeons or fished for sturgeons, and that month was like the prime sturgeon like window, I guess.
Yeah.
But like you, the first thing I didn't think like, oh, that's I thought it was a fish, but looking deeper into it. But the first thing I thought of was Sturgis, Sturgis the motorcycle rally, right? I lived in South Dakota for 2 years, so anything that's like Sturgis, sturgeon, it just reminds me of that. Oh, my little note here. I have not South Dakota, Sith Dakota, like Darth Sith Dakota. Anyway,
Darth
so yeah, that
sturgeons.
yeah, sturgeon. Yeah, when you have a moment, look at pictures of sturgeons. Maybe you'll have a different fetish.
No,
So
no
number
offense to that.
10 is uh, the full cold moon,
Okay.
right? These do get better. I guarantee you. That's why this is the bottom of the list to me.
Yeah.
But it's the
I certainly
cold
hope so.
moon. The cold moon. Ooh, I think that one is December. Obviously, the full moon in December is the cold moon.
Yeah.
What it reminds me of, it's cold as ice. It's cold as ice. I swear I won't sing very much longer or more on this show. Um, you know, but either that or like Andre 3000. His nickname was Ice Cold, and there's like a little like hidden track where like someone's like calling out to him, Ice Cold. Anyway,
I was
uh,
uh I was watching the YouTube this week and saw footage of Stone Cold Steve Austin getting in an ice bath.
that's really cool. That is ice cold.
It's literally ice cold. And he
He
was like,
literally, when he get out,
ah! And I'm like,
if he was naked and he got out, you would see a ice cold, stone cold moon. uh, so yes, a cold was that one, and it reminds me also like Cold as Ice Foreigner, like the Aqua Teen Hunger Force episode where
mhm.
Carl gets the belt. Did you ever see that?
Yes, yes. The foreigner belt. I was playing all the foreigner songs.
Yeah, it's like uh oh, what's the one where it's like
You're a jukebox hero. You have
the
stars in your eyes.
yes, and oh, and then it's like I guess that is Cold as Ice. That's the trying to think of isn't there like a fever one? I don't know, whatever. uh it's gonna come to me,
Yeah, I
obviously.
mean, I remember there was one for like head games, and then it turned Carl's head into like a
Yeah, he's
Connect
like,
Four thing.
who set this thing on head games anyway? Yeah, check out that episode, Aqua Teen Hunger Force. It's I
I'm
guess they
on
like
the hood, G.
they rebooted it, and I don't know, I haven't watched any of the new episodes, but back in the day that was like totally my jam, Aqua Teen Hunger Force. Okay, so number 9, Worm Moon. Yes, worm,
Worm, okay.
like you're baiting a hook, worm.
I
uh
mean, yeah, that makes sense. Worms are sort of cylindrical and circular, and
and I guess the reason why they did this, these names are like I don't know when I read them. I guess like in spring, I think it's a spring moon. The ground gets like soft, like in one of those months, and then the worms start to like come to the surface. It's like like a rotation thing where it's like 1 month worms are found and they're like popular to see around, coming up through the ground. And that's the
Worm.
worm moon.
Do you think the worm moon does the worm, the dance?
It, it does the worm across the sky.
Yeah, every night.
Yes. Okay, so number 8, this is kind of like a generic one. The flower moon. Um,
Okay.
that one was like, I was like, okay, well, I could see that because there's like, spring flowers are in bloom. Uh, that reminds me of Flower from Bambi. That's for whatever reason, every time I hear the word flower, that's what reminds me of Flower, like the skunk from Bambi. The skunk was
I
named
I
Flower.
don't remember ever watching Bambi even as a kid, so you got it
Really?
over my head
Yeah.
with that one.
And did you know that there's 2 Trey Flowers? I knew that there was one, and that's what like my mind kind of like once again just kind of like leads to is like sports. Um, but I was like, wasn't he on the Seahawks? Because like I'm in Seattle, so obviously like
Uh,
that's
I thought there. I thought I heard the name Trey Flowers. I didn't know there were two of them.
yeah. And the other one actually plays for the Patriots, or like he actually most recently
You sure it's not the
played for
same
the.
one?
No, I did. I looked at different. One's a defensive end and one's a cornerback. And the cornerback played for the Seahawks last year. And I think he got traded or like he got signed with the Falcons. And then he kind of went to like he like bounced around. He went to the Falcons and then went to, if I'm not mistaken, went to the Bengals. And then I guess now he's either on or the most recent team that he played for was the Falcons. And then the other Trey Flowers was on, and he's more known as playing for the Patriots, and he was a defensive end. He's not a
Again, I'm gonna
cornerback.
ask you. Sure, it's the same one.
No, he's a defensive end, and he actually played. I think he got drafted in like 2015 for the Patriots, and he played a couple years there. And so 2015, when was the last Super Bowl they won? That was
I feel like it might have been closer to like 2017, 2018-ish.
yeah. Yeah. Well, he played from 2015 to 18 for the Patriots. He like bounced around. I think he played like last year. But anyway, that's what I was like in doing this and other things that like Flower came across my mind. I was like, Trey Flowers is like somebody I think of because, like I said, I'm in Seattle and
I
he
think
was a
of
decent
the
cornerback.
song from Spinal Tap. Listen to what the flower people say.
With the Flower people.
Listen. Shh.
That's a Flower people. Isn't that like free love and all that?
Yeah,
Anyway,
they had a hippie face for a little bit, you know.
yeah. So
In the movie,
7.
watch it.
Let's move on. Let's move on. Move on. This
Okay,
is
okay.
not going as wildly successful as I thought. 7 is Buck, the Buck Moon, the full Buck Moon. I was like, what? Like, what's going on here? Buck Moon. So,
Yeah,
what do you think of? What's the first thing you think of when you think of Buck?
like the deer, I'm guessing, if we're going with the Native
Yeah,
American
that's what the
theme,
reference is for. But like, I'm just saying, like like I said, word association, other than like an actual buck.
a dollar
What
maybe.
get to the root of things. I guess the reason why they call it the buck moon is because this is when the antlers on deer or bucks are at their like biggest, you know.
Uh-huh.
It's like the year where they got the largest rack at this point in the year. I always think of Joe Buck. That's what I think of when I think of
Yeah.
Buck. And then, did you know? And this is like, I don't know how I like pulled this out of my what, my you know what. The Milwaukee Bucks drafted Eric Snow. Did you know that?
No, I did not know that. You
So,
definitely spent some time researching this that became to that
so
conclusion.
one moon drafted the other moon. Anyway, so
This list is
the
awesome,
next
dude. Let's
one,
keep going here. It's great material.
yeah. Well, we only have 6 left,
We're
so
halfway through.
The next one is the pink moon. So I don't even know. I guess it's it
Pink?
wasn't because the like hue of the moon was pink. It was that the flowers most in bloom during that month is like pink. Anyway, but it
Okay.
reminds me of Pink Floyd. I
Oh,
think
you
I
can't go
both,
wrong with them. They're
yeah,
great.
I think both you and me were like hardcore. Like we talked about, we probably had like endless like 2 day conversations about Pink Floyd back in the day, you know.
Yes.
But did you know that Pink, the pop singer, she performed the national anthem in the Super Bowl at 2018? Did you know that?
I don't remember who plays the anthem. I'm sure it happened.
But you know of Pink, the pop
Yes.
musician.
Yes,
Yes.
I am aware of Pink.
And I don't, like I said, these are like rabbit holes that I just like I like create for myself. But um people ask like where did she get her nickname Pink? Like
Hmm.
where'd that come from? And she claims, this is her like, you know, her testimony, that friends would always like compare or talk about her in like parallel to Mr. Pink from Reservoir Dogs. And that's where
Oh,
she got
Steve
the name.
Buscemi playing Mr.
Yeah,
Pink in that
yeah. And
movie.
he does like a big rant about how he doesn't want to be Mr. Pink.
Wow.
But but yes, that's a movie I need to watch again. I haven't seen that movie in a minute,
I
and
think the
it's
whole
all
like
time great.
naming the movies, naming the characters after like the colors, I think that came from like the Taking of Pelham 1, 2, 3, the original
Yeah,
movie.
yeah,
Because I know like the guys in that movie, they all had different colors. I don't know if there was a Mr. Pink or not in that movie, but
yeah. I do remember like because like what's his name? Quentin Tarantino does that where he likes
oh
to
yeah.
like kind of he does I mean a lot of that in Kill Bill and
I mean,
stuff.
Reservoir Dogs is basically like a reimagining of this Hong Kong movie, I think, called City on Fire or something. That's like all centers around an undercover cop going into a crime ring, which involves a jewelry heist. And in that movie, I remember they actually showed the jewelry heist, whereas like in Pulp Fiction, not Pulp Fiction, Reservoir Dogs, they kind of just skip over that part and just deal with the aftermath.
Yeah. Okay, top
Number five.
five, y'all. This is
All
like
right, let's see if we got some good names up here.
yes, I think all of them are good. It's just like I said, these are just things I didn't realize that. So the next time you see a full moon, you can wonder to yourself or Google like which one is this, you know, and is it
Yeah.
number five, the strawberry moon?
Strawberry beret.
Yeah, this one is because like in
And if I
June
were
strawberries are in
straw-
bloom. You know, there's a lot of strawberries in I guess like going on in June. I think it's the June
That would make
full
sense.
moon. Yeah. And
Yeah, I'm
who do
liking
you
this
think
one.
of? I think this is probably like the top one where like we probably think of the same. If I said I think of a person when I think strawberry,
I
what's
mean,
the
I'm
top
gonna think
person?
Daryl Strawberry because
There
his
we
last
go.
name is
That's the
literally Strawberry.
exactly. I guess that wasn't a hard leap to make. Yes, I do think of Daryl Strawberry when, like I said, it's all sports with me. But at least it's baseball. That's your neck of the woods. So four, right? It's number four, but like I think this is probably one of the ones that made me want to do this. Number four is the Beaver Moon.
Okay, let's try to keep this
This is a family
appropriate
show.
here.
Yeah. Um, what do you think? What do you think of when you think of a beaver moon? A full on in your face beaver moon.
I mean, there is that song by Primus, which is kind of funny.
Yeah. Uh I forgot how it goes now. It's like stage fright. Don't know. Oh yeah. But I thought that was never mind. That's
Yeah, let's
yeah.
What do you think of when you think of beavers?
Well, let's go to a safe place.
A safe
I
voice,
think of
okay.
the Oregon State Beavers. How about that?
All right, I
I
could
think
live with
that's
that.
one of the coolest mascots. Not just sports, but that's like one of the coolest mascots is a beaver for your team. That's like it's different, it's not a Trojan, it's not a it's not a rebel, although I like rebels obviously, but rebels are like five teams have rebels or knights or Trojans or wildcats,
Yeah,
beaver is like, hey, like we don't give an F. We're beavers,
we don't give a damn.
Oh man, it was right in front of me. I'm really proud of this now. Anyway, um, but did you know that like when the Beavers play the Ducks,
hmm
they play for a statue, like the football team, and the statue is a platypus? Did you know that?
No, no, I did not know
Isn't
that.
that cool though? Like because the duck and a beaver, like the like animal that like basically like Frankenstein them together, like God Frankenstein a beaver and a duck together to make a platypus, and then those two sports teams both play in Oregon play for a platypus statue. I thought that was kind of clever when I found that out.
It does sound clever. We're getting better on
Okay,
the list here.
I told you this is worth
How
it.
is this one not number one?
I don't know. Number three is a hunter's moon. Ooh,
Ooh,
hunter.
spooky.
Uh, yes. Obviously, I guess that's like a moon where hunters um hunt a lot. Um, but yeah, that's a hunter's. I just put it on three because it reminds me of a friend of mine. He's in our football league, and he's also a carrier here in Seattle. So shout out to Hunter. But yeah, Hunter's Moon is number three. Also makes me think of Hunter Renfro.
Which one?
Exactly. That's crazy when I like pieced that together. That he was like on my favorite football team, the Las Vegas Raiders, and then he's also like one of or was one or is one of the best like designated hitters in baseball. I don't know, but anyway, number two. Moving on, the Wolf Moon. That's the one that we're in right now. That's the one that kind of
Oh, Wolf.
sparked all of
That's
this.
a great one.
It's a wolf moon. I mean, werewolves. I mean, Ron Wolf. That's who I think of. I actually went to a game where they honored Ron Wolf as like a Raider GM going into the Hall of Fame,
Hey, with the
But
Packers for like forever.
yeah, he's more known as a Packers executive, but he came over to the Raiders and he's also like he was done making the Packers like the like best team to ever like Lombardi and all that stuff, and then he came over. I don't know if it was Lombardi, but it was in that area where he
I feel
was.
like I thought he was like the '90s Brett Favre era was Wolf.
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah. But I think he was also like the '80s Raiders
Okay,
also.
I'll take your word on that.
Yeah, all I know is he's responsible for like the two greatest eras in like Packers and Raiders history. So that's what I'm known for. So number one, I know like
Drum roll,
I'm
please.
afraid to even reveal this to. I don't want to like have like a heart attack live on this podcast here, because it's the suspense is so real. The number one is a corn moon.
Corn.
Yes, corn. Why?
How is
Why?
this number one over the beaver?
Because what is not made out of corn? That's like name one bad thing that's made out of corn.
Corn on the cob.
Oh, corn on the cob is. Oh, you barbecue it, and then you put like some. I don't even know what the exact spices are, but we put like what is it, cumin on it, and like paprika, and oh man, barbecue corn on the cob. Oh
Dude, I'm
man,
still traumatized from when I went to Japan and they had like liquid creamed corn that you could like buy as a drink in a vending machine. Ugh.
oh that's doesn't surprise me, but I mean it's like
No.
tortilla chips for like my like top three food of like all time nachos. Like, come on. And I love cornbread with some chili. I mean, even like Frosty, he's got a corn cob pipe, right? I don't know. I love corn
I
as a
figured you would have
food.
brought Frosty up with like the snow moon, but you were saving it
Ah,
for
full
later.
circle. I all I know is I love corn. I like can't get a like I can't get enough of it. It's also known, maybe this like will I don't know, tip up hot at your tea party. It's also known as a harvest moon.
Okay, that I've
Um
actually heard of before.
yeah. And but it's like when you look it up, they say corn moon and then they like in parentheses harvest moon. Or it's
Well, wait a
like
minute. How is Blood Moon not on this list? Because I've actually heard them say there's a Blood Moon out, and it's like, wait a minute, isn't that not one of the
those
types of moons? Or
I think that's like when it like somehow aligns up where it's like in proximity to the earth. It's not actually like talking about the monthly one. It's talking about the one where like somehow it lines up to where like it's like closer to the earth, or it like an atmospheric like shade on it makes it a certain color or something like that. I don't know, I'm not a moon expert. I didn't bring this up to like educate people in like, I'm not an astronomer. Like, this is I'm a mailman looking at the moon because I have worked way too long of a day, so uh but once again, I didn't this is exactly what my life my week was like. I was just one thing after another. I just clicked on some like pictures of the moon that Japan took, and then this is exactly what my timeline and my algorithm looked like for a week. So I didn't expect it to go that long, but I'm glad we went on that together. That was it was one of those where if like I'm gonna suffer, I'm going to take the rest of Titanic down with me. So how are we on time?
well, this is probably about as good a time as any to get ready to take our break and then actually talk about some posted stuff after the break.
Actually do what we came here to
Do
do.
what the podcast is themed.
Yes, the name of the podcast. Well, we'll take a break, and then when we come back, we'll actually talk about some mailman stuff to you know assist with the theme of walking or walk like a mailman. Welcome back to Walk Like a Mailman with Jeffro and Gryffindor.
We're back.
Yes. Maybe we shouldn't have taken a break right then. I did the stupid thing and checked the score, and the Chiefs were winning, and now I'm depressed. Tear. You can't see me, but I have a tear
Yes.
running down the side of my face.
I was thinking about if we had recorded earlier, I was thinking about taking the Chiefs as my underdog
Yes.
week.
Talk. Let's do like pin in that because I was thinking too, and I should have done it, but I didn't. And
Well,
so yes,
we have to
we'll
wait until we recorded before we make our official picks. So,
yeah. Well,
uh,
no, I know that wasn't. We'll go over it. That's
okay.
well, we'll maybe talk about a tally mark game that we're doing, or we're trying to like,
Let's talk
clean it up.
postage stuff since that's what everybody's here
Yeah,
for, right?
yeah, exactly. No, let's talk about the stars and how they're just pictures of former stars. But no, let's get to. I don't want to use topic of the day. I guess I like to refrain from like putting things in like nice little boxes. But going off of like last week, I like to kind of do something like a theme of the day, and but for lack of better words, maybe I'll come up with something. Today's topic is involved with don't worry about carrying mail, but I think it's one of the biggest cliches when it comes to when people talk to you about like the narrative of being a mail carrier. And today is dog bites and dealing with dogs on your route, or the in one corner we have the mailman where he's taken 4 ibuprofens and doesn't know what DPS stand for. And in the other corner, we have Fido, and he's wearing a flea collar. It's always like kind of like, the two arch nemesis, and I call it a cliche, and I call it like, a narrative, but it is serious. Like when you, like I said, referencing previous shows, when you get into the actual like field, you realize that it actually, like, there is some very like crazy truth to it, when it comes to mailmen and mail carriers, and what they got to deal with, as far as dogs go on the route. I mean, it really couldn't be further and yet closer to the truth if you tried, as far as like all the jokes and comics and cartoons about, dogs chasing mail carriers. So
Have you been chased by a dog as a mail carrier, Jeff?
many.
What was the biggest dog, and what was there a really small dog that was chasing you one time?
I've gotten all sorts.
You been chased by a Chihuahua, Jeff?
There's was that
You been chased by a Chihuahua?
I have been not bit, and I was going to go into that more later, but I'll put my little experiences, and like I'll wedge it into this part of the thing. So I've never been actually bit by a dog. There's been times where dogs have like bit the like pant leg, and like snapped at me and actually got my pant leg and got my shoe. But I've actually never had like, quote unquote, like a dog break my skin as far as biting me. The one closest time that I ever got, and it scared me, and it literally like it put was it like hair on the back of your neck, and it made me sweat a little. So I was in Reno, and I was delivering to like the front door of a house, and I was walking down the driveway, and their front porch was off to the right, and 2 cars were on the left, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I was walking, and I got to the front of the house, and I was putting mail into their mailbox, and I guess it snuck behind me, like it came around the cars. So I came from like let's just call it the right, and I came from the right, and the cars were on my left, and so I like came up to the mailbox, had my back to the rest of the world. I was just facing the house, and the dog must have snuck around the cars, because I probably would have seen it if it was coming from my right, because you always try to be somewhat observant, but the dog like snuck behind me on my left hand side, and it was one of those things like you could tell that like someone's watching you out of the corner of your eye type deal.
Yeah.
And I just noticed at the very last second, and that's all it takes, obviously, and the dog leapt at me and latched onto me, right, and bit me, right.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, and it was a pit bull. This thing was a giant monster hulking dog. Like this thing was, I was dead to rights. This thing had me. But it just so happened to be, by like the grace of God, I had my cell phone in my back pocket,
Mm-hmm.
and it literally, that's all it got into its mouth was my cell phone, and it grabbed onto my cell phone, and it even kind of like did the like head jerk, side to side, and it thinks it has a piece of me, and it's going, and it's got me, and then he let go, and then I turned around and I put my satchel between me and it, and I backed away, and it's barking at me, charging me, and it kind of let me get off the property without any further incident. But if my cell phone wasn't in my back pocket, I would definitely be like 1.5 ass cheek Jeff. Like that would be like that would be my who I am and what would happen, and then I would be another statistic as far as like what we're going to be talking about today. So, it's way more frequent than you would assume. You think it's a joke, you think it's like, oh yeah, like it happens, and my dog, hates the mailman, and you think it's funny, and you hear about stories, but it's it, you basically have like, other than like actual like vehicle accidents in the station, it's probably the most frequent, other than like slip, trip, and fall. It's probably tied up there with slip, trip, and fall. But vehicle accidents obviously is number one. We spend all day. It's a job requiring driving, you know. But other than that, vehicle accidents like dog bites are, I mean, it's either like number two or tied for number two as far as the most amount of accidents, or the most amount of like injuries on the job, you know.
Mm-hmm.
So, and you know, a lot of people like, they're like, oh, you know, my dog doesn't bite, he's so nice and stuff, you know. But if you really think about what our job is and what we like represent to these dogs, you know, they, you know, the dogs, they spend their whole entire like life, I mean, they're pretty much like, that's why they were adoptive from like their primitive form as a wolf. Wolf Moon, but anyway, wolf like primitive form, is to like help us protect, you know, they're protecting our property. That's what, you know, it's been ingrained in them and their like DNA, you know. So then like, when you come onto their territory, because that is our job, you have like a handshake agreement or like a known agreement with your mail carrier that you're allowing a mail carrier to come onto your property, you know, daily, you know.
Yeah.
So, you know, and if you look from like the dog's point of view, I mean, they don't know what mail is. They don't know like why you're there. You know, they just basically like, you know, look at you like you're an invader every single day, you know. And it's almost like they're, you know, they see you and they're like, what the hell? Like, it's you again? You know, I told you yesterday, like, get the hell off of my, you know, get the hell out of here.
Get
What's
off my plane.
yeah, get off my plane, you know. He's like, you again? Like, I've told you a million times, you come around here, I'm going to kick your ass, you know. And he's like barking at me, and it's like the soundtrack to our day is just constant dogs barking at us through windows, through doors, you know. And then like, what is the first thing you do after you deliver mail and you have the dog barking? You know, you turn around and you walk away, you know. And what you're doing is you're incentivizing, or you're encouraging them. You're basically showing them that like, okay, well, like, you know, like what you did, you know, in their mind, they probably think that they did the most awesomest, like, you know, like perfect job, you know, like, yeah,
That's
I
right.
told
You get
him,
out of here.
yeah, like, you get out of here. I told him to leave, you know. He looked at me, he delivered the mail, and then he walked away, you know. So like, you're just reinforcing that over and over and over and over and over again, to where like, you know, you're basically like like telling the dog that this is, you know, what our relationship is I come here, you get mad and say, hey, what the hell are you doing here? I get scared and I leave, you know. So when there is an opportunity where, you know, a dog sees a mailman, you know, and he is loose, or he doesn't have the restraint of the house, or, you know, whatever, when he sees, you know, a mail carrier, that's probably, you know, that would be a lot of people's, you know, not even just dogs, there's a lot of instinct to where you're like you go after them, you know, that's just your instinct, is to go after the mail carrier and say, hey, it's you again, like, what the hell are you doing here? I told you to leave, you know. And that's where I think like a lot of, you know, a lot of the root of like, you know, why it is that there's like a animosity between like, you know, dogs and and carriers, you know. So so there is things that they put in place to try to like curb the amount of dog bites. Obviously, if this is like such a, you know, epidemic between like carriers and dogs, you know, just imagine of the amount of like resource and money and everything going into the you know, process, as far as like after a dog, you know, bite happens, you know.
Mm-hmm.
So of course they like put in programs when you're in training. And by the way, we when we go into training, we actually go to a thing called the academy, and it's very like it's actually
That sound like a
pretty
police
cool.
academy for postal people?
It's basically that, and I did it like probably around 5 years ago now, and from what I've heard, that they've like kind of like toned it down a little bit more. But it's a pretty
No
legit like
hijinks with Steve Gutenberg.
yes, like we have a guy in the class and he does really good sound effects with his mouth and all that. But in the academy, obviously there's like the dog bite day where we talk about dog bites, and then we actually watch videos of dog bites. And um so a lot of people think we carry satchels with us, and 9 times out of 10 when you're talking to like a new employee, they just think the satchel that we carry is for carrying packages, and it's a dual use item on our person. It is there to carry packages, but more importantly, and that's why they talk about like if you're delivering to a block or you're doing a park and loop, and you don't have any parkages, you don't have any packages for that loop, they tell you to still bring your satchel with you, and it's because the satchel itself is a tool or a deterrent from dog bites. They did like a video, and once again, I think my academy might be different from someone else's academy, and they might have different, across the United States, like each person has a different experience or different like training videos and stuff. But from what I gathered or understood or saw in the video, they did like a study, right? And they had a dog like told like they had a dog basically like chase a guy down, right, in the video. And one guy, like the first time, had a briefcase in his hand, right? So the dog was like making a beeline straight for the guy, and the guy put the briefcase between him and the dog, and the first instinct that the dog had was to like dodge the briefcase, get around the briefcase, and then get to the guy, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then like test study number two was a guy like walking down the street, and he had a satchel or like a bag that was more like anamorphic. It wasn't just like a square object, right?
Yeah.
And then when the dog made a beeline for him, the guy put the satchel out in front of him, and the dog, it was kind of like a to me like like a light, like it was insane to watch the two videos like side by side. The dog literally just went straight after the satchel, bit the satchel, and like tried to shred the satchel down, right?
Yeah.
And what it is I guess it's an instinctual thing to where the dog can tell that the briefcase is not a part of your body. They can tell because it's a square, like non-anamorphic, non body shaped type object in front of it. They view it as an object. They can identify it as an object, like a rock in front of them, right? And that's all it is to them, is just an obstacle that they got to get through to get to you, right? But when they see the satchel, they can't discriminate between you and the satchel and decide what's satchel and what's you. So they view the satchel as a part of you. So then they bite the satchel, right? So that's why you always see mail carriers with satchels. It's not just for us to carry packages. I mean, we do put packages in there because it is a good use for it. But satchels are actual like dog deterrents, or a tool for dog bites. And I have only and ever reached that level to where I've only had to use a dog satchel or a satchel, and it's worked 100% of the time. I've had dogs bite it. I've had anytime I've ever had any crazy incident, and there's like it's countless. It's literally countless. It's I don't want to say it's weekly, but it's up on the level of it could happen twice this week, and then it could happen no times next week. But it's that kind of level of amount of occurrences. But every single time ever, I always try to be observant, and that's like the first line of defense is just being observant, being knowledgeable, like to be aware of your surroundings, and that has always been all I needed was a satchel. And they even like talk to you about like back in the day when it was like a bigger thing to like be occurring. They like people listening with like headsets on, like listening to like podcasts or audiobooks or like music. They told us that we couldn't do it. Like that was not part of our job, that we would get in trouble if we got caught with headphones in.
Hmm.
But then they realized that that was just an uphill battle and they were never going to win that one, So then they've kind of like curbed their uh, disdain for it. And they basically say, well, at least if you're going to do it, just put one headphone in, you know. So it's a thing to where like they won't even like give you any kind of um they won't get you in trouble for it. They won't uh give you any kind of punishment or write you up for it, but they will encourage you to like the next time to where like just put one headset in just in case there's an issue, but more importantly a dog. um but I've only had to use the satchel, and to me, it's been 100% of the time all I needed to prevent a dog bite up until this point. So, and then they also give us dog spray, and I've never had to use dog spray. I think it's kind of like the like mentality as like I don't know. Once you do it once, it kind of like for humans and their instinct, it kind of like opens up that wall mentally to where like it's okay to use it. And I'm not that type of person.
Is
To
it
me,
like that
it's
shark repellent bat spray from Batman movie?
I love that movie. That's like one of my like favorite like Batman movies. But it's a different age from like the 50s or 60s, right?
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, they give us dog spray. From what I gathered, it's not like actual mace. It doesn't even hurt the dog, but it really like it puts out, and it's specifically made for dogs to where it clogs up their senses, as far as it's kind of like mace, but from what I gathered, it's not like as bad for the dog like being like hurt from it as mace. It's literally just called, it's not called mace, it's called dog spray. But I've never had to use it. I've heard of carriers using it many times. But like I said, I try to like veer away from getting to that point. That to me it's the last resorts is spraying someone's dog. I hope that it comes across like that. Like, while I'm at work, I'm all about business. I'm there to deliver the mail. I'm not here to mess around with your dog. I'm not here to like, do all that. I'm there to deliver the mail. And so when it comes to dogs, I myself, like I love dogs. I'm a dog lover. I've always been. If I was off the clock, I'd be more than happy to bend down and pet your dog and do a little ishy bishy wooshy bishy, with the dog. But on the clock, I just, to me, I don't have time for that. That's just not me. There are carriers that even carry dog treats for their dogs on the route. I think that's just too excessive. There is one person who shall remain nameless, that I believe, and it's just like a rumor through the grapevine, from whatever, that carried dog treats on him, and he gave a dog treat, and then after the dog proceeded to take the dog treat, bit him after he took the dog treat. I mean, you cannot paint a better like biting the hand that feeds you picture than that.
Not very nice.
Yeah, I know. But I, like I said, when I'm on the clock, it's not, I forget that, and people think, and from my occurrences, people think that I'm like not a dog person, that I'm like afraid of dogs or I don't like dogs. It's like, no, it's like, there's a protocol, there's a policy, and your dog might be the friendliest, nicest dog when he's around you, when he's around your friends and all that stuff. But, when you leave the door open, or like, you know, you have him, having free reign over your yard, and I got to, open the gate to get into that yard, you don't know, and I just don't want to take that chance. My job is my livelihood, and I don't want to risk that, even with like, a teacup poodle, all the way up to like a Saint Bernard. I would prefer, just to, I will talk to you. I will be as friendly as possible ever to you. But when it comes to your dog, I have a policy and I have a protocol and I have a hard line. And if you, kind of mix with that hard line, I am always a person that will refer you to our, post office process when it comes to dog letters. So the
What's a dog letter?
post office basically, and referring back to, like, there's different terms and different processes. Like some stations might have different processes, but like the more like, I think this is actually the technical way that they're supposed to go about it, but some stations are loosey goosey, some are more like, black and white. But there's like 3 levels or 3 dog letters, right? So like, let's just say I go into like a front yard and the dog, is running around in the front yard. I usually give like a couple times. What I'll do is I'll just write on the mail like dog out and the date, and then I just take the mail back to the station, and then the next day I deliver it. And there's mail, like your mail will have like a written, notice on it where it says dog out and the date. It's kind of just like to let them know, like, hey, I had mail for you yesterday, but I couldn't deliver it. And then after a couple times, you don't have to be that type of carrier. The first time it happens, you can go to your supervisor and you can say, hey, I want a dog letter for this address. And what a dog letter 1 is, just basically like a written warning. We deliver instead of your mail the next day. We'll like hold your mail and we'll deliver a dog letter. And it's basically saying, hey, on this date, the carrier faced animal interference. If there continues to be an issue at this address, where we will have to take other action, right? And then let's just say I come the next week and the dog is again out in the yard, and they already had so then after I deliver the first letter, the next day I'll just resume delivery. I'll deliver their mail. But then, like, let's just say I'm like delivering for like another week, and then I come back the next week and the dog's out in the yard again, and it's like, hey, like, your dog might be the nicest dog, but I'm not going to deliver mail under those circumstances. There's, and typically every single day around a window I'm there. It's not like I'm like, coming at like, it does happen, and I understand it, those circumstances as well, but usually, 9 times out of 10 I'm there at like, 12:30 every single day. So maybe around that time is not the best time to like just let Fluffy, do whatever the heck he wants in the front yard. So if you get to a dog litter 2, and this is just once again from my experience, it's usually like kind of like the same wordage as like last time, but it will like give a condition like, hey, move your mailbox to the outside of the fence or gate, so that way the mailman doesn't have to cross the property or the yard to like go into, deliver the mail, right? So then there's a dog letter 3, and basically if you get to a dog letter 3, you're like blacklisted. You get no more mail for you. It's pretty rare that it gets to that point, because if you get a second dog letter, like, and the thing about this, the dog letter 2 is once I deliver that, I don't resume delivery until they come into the station. They have to come into the station and sign basically the same exact letter that they get. They basically got to bring the letter to the station and sign that, and it's basically telling the supervisor or the manager or the the post office that you're going to move the mailbox.
Has anyone on your route had to get, dog
I've had
listed or
I've had probably like, from my route, and once again, I'm a hardline guy where like I'll give you a couple extra steps, like I'll write on the mail like dog out, or if there's an incident that happens, like one house had like a dog on a leash, like one of those pegs in the ground,
yeah.
and like most of the times they were outside with the dog, and I have no issue with that. Just come meet me at the edge of the property, I'll give you the mail, there we go. But a lot of times they were inside the house, and the dog literally was blocking my progression to the mailbox. So then I gave them a dog letter one, you know and I've probably had like 20 dog letter ones, and then I've probably had like 4 or 5 dog letter twos, and I've never had a dog letter three. For the most part, that's, usually, like I said, by the time it gets to two, our point is made. Like, hey, move your mailbox because we don't want to have to deal with this issue. But if you get a dog letter three, like it happens a third time, or it happens another time after you get the second dog letter, any dog issue on your property. Another thing is if a dog bite happens as opposed to just dog loose or whatever, it automatically goes to dog letter three. You don't get all these little opportunities. If a dog bite happens on your property, you automatically get blacklisted, and then you're advised to basically get a PO box. And I don't know if you know anything about a PO box, but you have to pay to get a PO box.
Yes.
And that means you don't get mail at your house anymore. You have to come to the station to pick up your mail now. And that's basically like how it is as a carrier, dealing with dogs. It's one of those where you never knew it was going to happen, and then and it's always the best carrier in the world. It's like car accidents. You could be the best carrier in the world, you could be the most observant, the most fastidious person. You could always have your dog spray and your dog satchel, but once you're on the street, anything goes. And I've seen the best carriers get bit, and it's definitely like it's a bigger issue than what you thought, and it's not just a joke, although it is kind of cliche and a joke to everyone. But anyway, the game today. Okay. How about we talk about the tally game? We were like going back and forth about the tally game like all week, and it's like,
Yeah, and then when we were realizing like they don't have betting lines for a lot of games up yet. So
yeah, that was
you'd
my
be like,
mistake. I was like trying to create this, and I thought everything was like football because like me and my like or little history, or like we used to like my grandfather used to bet on football a lot, and when I got older, I mean, living in Vegas, it's kind of like common knowledge to especially sports fans is that like the betting lines or the point spreads for football games come out like Wednesday. But I didn't realize that not all sports. I thought like it would be maybe like a couple of days before or something of that nature. I did not realize that they basically, for every other sport, it's like same day type thing. But I still think we can play a little around with this, and we'll maybe work some things out. But I think, hey, like on Sunday we can pick a Sunday or a Monday game. So that was kind of where we were at the last time we had spoke.
do you
So
have a pick for this week? Because I do have a pick for this week.
I do have a pick. You want to go first?
I am picking the Orlando Magic +1 today with the Phoenix Suns.
Ooh, okay. That's pretty good. I Magic are way better than what people would first assume, as being basketball fans. I will pick Virginia Tech against the Duke Blue Devils tomorrow.
And then you're picking the Virginia, so
Yeah, yeah. Duke is favored if I'm not mistaken in that game tomorrow. It just gives me another chance and another opportunity that my grandfather, speaking of, always would say, "Don't bet with your heart, bet with your brain." And but I'm gonna ignore him on this one. There's always like, and then they talk about fantasy sports and stuff. It's like,
But the
yeah,
one
pick,
time I root for Duke.
yeah, pick your guy. Yeah, pick your guy. So then that way, you can enjoy the season a little bit more. Like pick Bryce Harper if he's your favorite guy. It may not be the best or meant to be the best pick for that round, but hey, like pick someone you like. It makes it more enjoyable when you're watching the game. You not only get to root against Duke, but at the same time, like you have more skin on the action. I could go the other way where it was like what do they call that, the reverse
Psychology.
was that
Reverse psychology.
reverse psychology, or yeah, reverse curse or whatever, where it's like, if they lose, hey, like, if Duke wins, I get a point. So like, hey, at least I got a point out of it. But if Virginia Tech wins, then like, hey, like at least Duke lost. You can do the reverse. But I for this one, it's close enough. I don't think Duke is as good as they have been in past years, and I like Virginia Tech. And then it also gives me a little bit of extra, like, twist the knife of some sort. So then that way, if
Well,
Duke
I'll tell you,
loses,
if we had recorded earlier, I would have definitely taken the Chiefs over the Ravens today as my pick.
yeah,
But
it's one of
we
those things where it's like he's like the Tom Brady of our era, or the Patriots of our era, like the new era, where it's like if you get the Chiefs with a plus sign next to their name,
yeah.
just take it.
I mean,
It's
really,
gonna be
I
rare.
don't think the Lions are. I mean, the Lions, I think, have a shot at winning today too. They're not playing
Yeah,
till 3 o'clock,
but
but
that's a bigger. I'm more afraid of the. Well, I
yeah,
was, but that's why sports are
that's
so
betting
fun,
with your
because
heart versus your
you,
head, you know.
you're not going to predict anything, and every time you think you figured it out, football happens or sports happen. So, and then last week we totally went like 70% about sports. I know I even like introduced it with talking about how we didn't want to talk about too much sports on this.
And we went 70% about the moon today.
Yeah, but last week I meant to like kind of like ease it into like holidays last week and talk about holidays last week, and it kind of turned into Super Bowl, because to me, like, that's the next big thing as far as holidays go, or as far as things that I celebrate or that I'm looking forward to. And then I was going to even like side note from last week until we got cut off, or we ran a little long, is that if the NFL extends its season one more week, it runs right perfectly into President's Day. I think I'm correct on that. Am I?
This time around, yes.
Yeah. And so like that was what I was understanding, is that if they do what everyone thinks that they're going to do, that they're going to go to 18 games. If they do that, then it's going to push everything back, including the Super Bowl, and then the Super Bowl will line up with the President's weekend, and then Monday you would get that day off anyway.
And
I'm
speaking
not
of days off, we are pretty much out of time here.
okay. Well, then I'm just going to say we are going to have a show that we're going to record right after the Super Bowl. Um, Stay tuned for that one. That one's probably going to be a little spicy. I usually go to the uncle's house, and
You do realize the Super Bowl isn't next weekend, it's the weekend after.
I know, but I'm saying something to look forward to. Yeah, I'm going to start drinking right now. Um, no, but like I said, we always go over to the uncle's house, and he is like numero uno. That's like my thing, I guess I say. As far as like peer pressure goes, he just can't take no for an answer. I always go to his house for the Super Bowl, and but we will record after. So I'm going to try to at least tame myself ever so slightly. I might have to get a designated driver, but we will definitely.
That's in 2 weeks, folks. There will still be a regularly scheduled episode
Yeah,
next.
yeah. No, there'll be at least one more show between now and then, but we're definitely going to have a special, like post Super Bowl show. And once again, we'll talk about our normal mail carrying things, but we'll definitely be doing a post Super Bowl discussion on what we watched. And unfortunately, I'm hoping that the Chiefs are not there as well. But on top of that, I just wanted to say our show today, we don't have any sponsors still. Although I don't know why it's taking so long. But our show was sponsored by, I finally got one. And my sponsors, Midday Naps in the afternoon. They make you refreshed in the evening, but they screw up your sleep cycle. But they're definitely a good thing to partake in if you get the
Hopefully, you won't be
chance.
taking a midday nap after this episode
Well,
of
that's why I brought
Walk
it up.
Like a Mailman.
Yes, walk like a mailman. Thank you. See you next week.